Hi, I'm Dr. Patrick Blake, co-founder and the Chief Medical Officer at Portrait. The medical side is incredibly complex. To get to where we are, to have something that I feel like we can do great care, safe care, appropriate oversight, took probably hundreds of hours of design and thousands of hours of work to get there. So we don't take it lightly. We have incredibly detailed policies and procedures, but all of those were developed in collaboration with our providers. From end to end, the design has been, let's deliver great outcomes and let's do all of the background work we can to make it easy for providers to do that in a safe and compliant manner. Creating systems for standing orders, creating systems for the appropriate good faith exams in order to oversee registered nurses and allow them to practice to their full degree of abilities, but within the confines of the regulatory environment. For the PA and NP providers that we work with, there are state-by-state differences, so we put a lot of effort into researching that. What does it mean to provide appropriate oversight in Florida versus New York versus Texas versus California? That takes diligence. So each provider, we built a system around them, no matter what their credentials are, no matter where they are, no matter who their clinical director is. You have to have a lot of legal knowledge in order to be able to operate safely in this space. It takes a lot of time to get there, a lot of money. For Portrait, we have a dedicated legal and compliance team, and that's a huge value add for providers. I think the important part of it is it's ongoing too, so it's easy to kind of think, okay, I've got my stuff together, maybe based on faulty information, and then you actually have to keep up on that because it changes. It's changed in California this year, it's changed in Texas, it's changed in a lot of states, and it changes on an ongoing basis. So having a continuous pulse, a continuous touch point on what's going on a regulatory environment, and also we are critically assessing our own processes every month, probably, so that even if we don't see a gap, it's like, how can we make this easier to not make a mistake? That's really what the goal is. We have to always meet the standard of care, and that can be met in a lot of different ways, but I think one thing is that you always have to have attention to detail. If you talk to regulators, they really are looking at that. They want to see that there's a really robust relationship between providers and their clinical director, between an overseeing physician, if you will. They want to see that detailed policies and procedures are in place. They want to see that there's an ongoing communication loop. They want to see appropriate documentation. They want to see that the training has been documented and that we've got a process for assessing outcomes. There's just so many details, whether it's signage in suites or changes in consents, or you bring on a new filler, you bring on a new toxin, you need to think about how you integrate that into your process. And I really take a lot of pride in that across the board you could talk to any of the providers and they might say, oh gosh, Patrick can be a little bit annoying about this, but they know that I'm looking out for them and they know that we are looking out for them. We're very methodical about who we work with, and that's not because we want to be exclusive or something. It's because each provider is a reflection on another provider. So there has to be a high standard here because it affects everyone. So we make sure that the providers who join the collective have a very strong knowledge base. We work continuously to up-level that knowledge base, particularly on education, so that when someone comes in and is going to do a training, it's always high yield. We get feedback on how these trainings go, and it has been one of the selling points of the company, I think, that providers are like, again, I've spent thousands of dollars on training, I haven't had training like this. It's a really cool part of being in the collective. So a common thing I hear is, I wish this would have been around when I started my own business, and that's from providers who have been in the field for quite some time and did decide to launch their own business and went through the pain of finding a medical director who really knew aesthetics, who supported them, about figuring out the appropriate medical malpractice care, about navigating all of the state regulatory requirements, OSHA requirements, all of the time and money that goes into that, and the stress that goes into that, and instead of launching a business over a year and a half period, at Portrait they can do it in 6 weeks without having to ask any of those questions. So that is, yeah, it's fulfilling. What we've built at this point is a system I'm just so incredibly proud of. Everything is geared around oversight, it's geared around patient safety, it's geared around outcomes, it's geared around positioning providers to be ready for anything.